Good morning, all student, UPSC aspirant, English medium student. Thanks for joining me once again. I remind you in the last class, chapter 8, questions with answers. So, today is class chapter 9th. So, let's go ahead. Prabhakar at the blacksmith's shop. So, Prabhakar sat watching the smiths at the local shop. There was a small bench on which iron tools like axes and sickles were laid out ready for sale. A bright fire was burning and two men were heating and beating beetle rods into shape. It was very hot and noisy, and yet it was fantastic to watch what was happening. So let's go ahead. Iron tools and agricultures. So we often take the used of iron for granite today. Things made of iron and steel are a part of our daily lives. The use of iron began in the subcontinent around 30,000 years ago. Some of the largest collection of iron tools and weapons were found in the megalithic burials, about which you read in chapter 5th. So let's go ahead. Around 25 years ago, there is evidence from the growing use the iron tools. These included Texas for clearing forest and the iron plugshare, as we had see chapter 6. The plugshare was useful for increasing agriculture production. So let's go ahead. Other steps to increase production: irrigation. So the king and kingdoms you have been reading about could not have exited exit without the support of flourishing village, while new tools and the system of transplantations. Chapter 6, increased production. Irrigation was also used. Irrigation works that were built during this time included canal, well, tanks, and artificial lakes. If you look at the chart, you will find that some of the stages in the construction of irrigation works are mentioned. Fill in the rest by using the following phrases. First, labor is provided by the people. Second, farmers also benefit because crop production is more certain. So farmers have to increase production to pay taxes. And last, king provided money and plain irrigation works. So filling the blank, you all student worksheet, you do pen down notebook. First, kings need money for armies, places, for forts. Second, they demand taxes from farmers. Third, blank, you do homework. Fourth, this is possible with irrigation. Fifth, blank, filling the blank. Sixth, filling the blank. And seventh, production increase. Eight, so does revenue. Ninth, filling the blank. So you all a student, when I answer the questions of chapter 9, then only I will tell you about this filling the blank. So let's go ahead. You lived the villages. There were at least three different kinds of people lives the most villages in the southern and northern parts of the subcontinent. In the Tamil regions, large land owners were known as Velar. Ordinary plugmen were known as usurper and landless laborers, including slaves, were known as Kadeshiyar and Adimai. So, in the northern part of the country, the village's headman was known as the Gram Bhoj. Usually, men from the some family held the position for generation. In other words, the post was hereditary. The Gram Bhoj was often the largest land owner. Generally, he had slaves and hired workers to cultivate the land. Besides, as he was powerful, the king often used him to collect taxes from the villages. He also functioned as a judge and sometimes as a policeman. Apart from the Gram Bhoj, there were other independent farmers known as Grihpati, most of whom were smaller landowners, and then there were men and women such as the Das Karmakara, who did not own land and had to earn and living working on the field owned by other. In most villages, there were also some craft persons such as the blacksmith, goldsmith, potter, carpenter, and weavers. Finding out about cities, stories, travels, sculpture, and archaeology. You may have heard of the Janta. These were stories that were probably composed by ordinary people and then written down and preserved by Buddhist monks. Here is a part of a Janta story which tells us how a poor man gradually become rich. So we can use other king of evidence to find out about life in some of the early cities. Sculpture carved scenes depicting peoples peoples live in towns and villages as well as in the forest. Many of these sculptures were used to decorate railing, pillars, and gateway of buildings that were visited by people. So, look at this picture. Ring well found in Delhi. In what way do you think this system of drains was different from that of the Harappa? So, you all students look at this picture. Harappa drains. So, let's go ahead. Many of the cities that developed from about 25,000 years ago were capitals of the Mahajanpad that you learned about in chapter 6, as well as had seen some of these cities were surrounded by massive fortification walls. In many cities, archaeologists have found rows of pots or ceramic rings arranged one on top of the other. These are known as ring well. These seem to have been used as toilet in some cases and as drains and garbage dumps. These ring wells are usually found in individual houses. We have hardly any remains of palaces, market, or of homes of ordinary people. Perhaps some are yet to be discovered by archaeologists. Other made of wood, mud, bricks, and thatch may not have survived. Another way of finding out about early cities is from the accounts of sailors and travelers who visited them. One of the most deleted accounts that has been found was by an unknown Greek sailor. He described all the ports he visited fine. So you all students look at this picture. So a sculpture from Sanchi. This is a sculpture from Sanchi, a site with a stoop in Madhya Pradesh showing the season in a city. You will learn more about Sanchi in chapter 12. Notice the way walls are so. Are they made of bricks, wood, or stone? Now look at the railing. Are they made of wood? Describe the roofs of the building. So let's go ahead. Coins before Bruch on May 7th, and then read this description of the city. Bruch is a district of the southern part of the Gujarat Peninsula on the west coast of state of Gujarat, and Bruch is a city at the mouth of the river Narmada in Gujarat, in West India. And last, Bruch is the administrative headquarters of Bruch district. So, facts. Bruch. So, let's go ahead. Coins. You may have noticed how wealth is measured in terms of coins in the story on page 19. Archaeologists have found several thousands of coins belonging to this period. The earliest coins, which were in use of about 500 years ago, were punch market coins such as the shown below. They have been given this name because the designs were punched to the metal, silver, or copper. So you look at this picture. Coins, silver coins and copper coins. Look at this picture, silver coins and copper coins. So let's go ahead. Cities which many functions. Very often a single town was important for a varieties of regions. Let us look at the example of Mathura. Mathura has been as important settlement for more than 2500 years ago. I was important because it was located at the crossroad of two major routes of travel and trade, from the northwest to the east and from north to south. There were fortifications around the city, and several shrine farmers and herders from adjoining areas provided food and people in the city. Mathura was also a center where some extremely fine sculpture was produced. Production. Around 20,000 years ago, Mathura became the second capital of the Kushan, about whom you will be reading in chapter 10. Mathura was also religious and Radha Krishna temples in Mathura. There were Buddhist monasteries and shrines, and it was an important center for the worship of Krishna. Several inscriptions on surface, such as stone stable and statues, have been found in Mathura. Generally, these are short inscriptions recording gifts made by men and sometimes women to monasteries and shrines. These were made by kings and queens, officers, merchants, and craftspersons who lived in the city. For instance, descriptions for Mathura. Mathura mention goldsmith, blacksmiths, weavers, basket markers, garland markers, and perfumers. And let's go ahead, crafts and craft persons. We also have archaeological evidence for crafts. These include extremely fine pottery known as the northern black polished ware. It gets its name from the fact that it is generally found in the northern part of the subcontinent. It is usually black in color and has a fine sheen. Remember that the archaeological evidence for many crafts may not have survived. We know from text that the manufacture of clothes was important. There were famous centers such as Varanasi in the north and Madurai in the south. Madurai, famous temple in Sri Mahalakshmi temple. Both men and women worked in these centers. Many craftspersons and merchants now formed associations known as shrines. These shrines of craftspersons provided trainings, procured raw material, and distribute the finished product. Then shrines of merchants organized the trade. Shrines also served as blank where which men and women deposited money. This was invested and part of the interest was returned or used to support religious institutes such as monasteries. And last, a closer look, Arikamedu. Find Arikamedu in Pondicherry and read the box in Rome on page 96. Between 2200s and 1900s ago, Arikamedu was a coastal settlement where ships unloaded goods from distant lands. A massive bricks a structure which may have been a warehouse was found at the site. Other finds include poetry from the Mediterranean regions such as M4 tell double-handed